because my background's comedy, did stand up for 11 years. I thought I'd come in with just a fun, cheery topic. So I've gone with Keir Starmer wants to kill us all. And
Ha ha!
just some bants for you, Callum, to cheer you up. So, yeah, because I hate to call him Sir Keir Starmer, so in fact I won't. I just read it off the screen for a second and got brainwashed. But Keir Starmer, he's confirmed last week he wants to legalize assisted dying when he wins the election. I've got to use my clicker, which I've never used before because I'm used to the old setup where John does it. But he said it in here. He said, I think we need to make time. I'm personally in favor of changing the law. We will make the commitment. And he was talking to Estevan, so I can give you that commitment right now. And of course, one thinks of, Estevan and is sympathetic, but is assisted dying, aka euthanasia, a good idea? And this actually is an issue that Starmer seems to be quite consistent on, which is very rare for him. But even if you go back to 2015, it says somewhere in the Spiked article, doesn't really matter, but in 2015, he was already voting for it as an MP. So this is something he's very, very passionate about. And actually, annoyingly, the people are on his side because the vast majority of voters support change in law on assisted dying. And this came from Opinion research on behalf of Dignity in Dying. And they asked 10,000 people or more, in fact, and 3/4 said they'd support making it lawful for terminally ill adults to access assisted dying in the UK, with only about 1 in 8 stating they would oppose such a move. Okay. So you go, all right, well, fine. People are sympathetic. I understand that. People are in pain. I get the argument. But then what about a slippery slope? And I know you guys have talked about this in regards to Canada. So Michael Deacon had this article last week in the Telegraph. He's saying we'll live to regret this. And it's just a classic slippery slope. He talks about that poll, 75% said they'd be in favor of it. But have they not heard the horror stories coming out of Canada, where he says assisted suicide was legalized in 2016 in Canada? Ever since, there have been numerous cases showing how humane intentions can lead to chilling consequences. Take the 61-year-old man who was euthanized in 2019, even though the only health problem he'd listed on his application form was hearing loss.
What?
Yep, that's right there in that few paragraphs down.
Jesus, what?
or the 41-year-old woman who was euthanized in 2021 after telling doctors she wanted to end the suffering caused by a fibromyalgia. In private, however, she told friends she actually wanted to die because she was so poor.
Sorry for the interruption. I'm Father Calvin Robinson, and you can watch my Common Sense Crusade at 3 p.m. on Thursdays only on lotuseaters.com, where you can sign up for as little as £5 per month. Deus Vult.
Can you imagine that? That's going to be Labour policy, offing poor people. Isn't that...
Have we tried kill all the poor?
Right. Isn't that tragic? I mean, that is crazy.
Yeah, really.
And there was another example in Spiked here, where they talked about an autistic man in his 20s. This is Kevin Yule's piece in Spiked. I've mis-scrolled, but they say one such case was an autistic man in his 20s. His record said that he was a victim of regular bullying, that he felt unhappy since childhood, and that he longed for social contacts but was unable to connect with others. On this basis, and on his request, his doctor euthanized him. So that was...
And they actually did kill these people.
Yeah. This is what's happening in Canada. There it is.
Because there's the thing. If you asked me that question, I would have probably been on the side of, yeah, I'm on an assisted dying side. Because there's a fundamental question, just as like, in abstract. If I'm really, really ill, do I want to be able to get myself killed? And I'm on the side of, yeah, fundamentally. But when you put it like that, well, okay, you actually do change the culture in a fundamental way that we're now able to just kill people because they're poor.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's actually put some pause in me.
Yeah. From the moment you're born, in this new system, you'll be a potential death target by the state. It just depends if you want to live like that. That's the slippery slope.
I would completely agree with you. I don't think... I do think that if I was, say, in a coma and was unlikely to ever come out of it, I would rather they turned the machine off on me. Absolutely. If I was in terminal pain, they couldn't really do anything about, and I was very old, again, I would probably like to die. So yeah, on the face of it, yeah, I'm with it. But that's terrible.
There you go.
That's absolutely diabolical, isn't it?
That's Canada. So if we go back to Michael Deacon's piece in the Telegraph,
I mean, isn't this just a question? I mean, is this just an oversight in the law? Because, I mean, someone coming in and saying, I've got hearing loss, and the doctor's like, whoa, just seems a bit disproportionate.
Right. We'll get onto that. I think it's where we'll see it's actually a feature, not a bug.
Okay.
So, anyway, Deacon goes on, disturbing though it may sound, many Canadians actually think that poverty is justification enough. According to a poll from last year, over a quarter of them believe that poverty is a legitimate reason to be granted an assisted suicide. Meanwhile, some Canadian campaigners want to expand the right to assisted suicide even further, so that Callum's dying right now. So that
he's been ill for days. It's okay.
so the anorexics and the mentally ill can benefit from it too.
Oh God.
Anorexics, did you say?
Yep, this is where it would go. And here's my little take as well. Imagine like being right wing often gets called a mental illness in the Guardian and stuff. Isn't it a short step to like you're right wing? I think you're probably mentally ill. I think you should probably die. That's just my satirical take. But this is the stuff that's actually happening.
I was going a bit imperialist in my mind. I was thinking, a case to wipe out all of the third world. I'm sorry, but if you're literally in the position where, well, he's a bit poor, better put him down for his own sake, like a horse with a limp.
Yeah, very Labour, isn't it? So this is not that Labour have done this yet, of course, because it's only in Canada, but this is the lefty liberal way of thinking that's led to this. So anyway, Deacon goes on, this is the trouble with assisted dying. You start off legalizing it solely for people suffering from terminal illness, but then there's pressure to legalize it for other health conditions and depression and eating disorders and drug addiction. So before you know it, you don't even visit your GP anymore for fear of what he might prescribe. Good morning, doctor. I think I've sprained my ankle. Not to worry, there's a wonderful new treatment that's guaranteed to end your pain, and not just in your ankle either. Not a bad joke for a broadsheet, but that you see where he's going. He points out you wouldn't get a GP appointment.
Isn't that actually what you do with horses, though?
Right.
Like the ankle goes, and it's like, ugh.
Yeah, may as well do the whole thing. Yeah. That's going to be people now.
What's that film where they have to eat Soylent Green, old 70s film? And anyway, it's just a state that at a certain age, at like 60 or something, just as a matter of course, you are put down.
Yeah.
Well, again, it's sort of the thin end of the wedge. It seems here that once you allow it, it wouldn't be too many steps before the state decides that you have to die at a certain point.
Bit worrying, isn't it?
For no real reason.
These are the people that already think we're overpopulated due to climate change, and that humans are a cancer on the planet. Starmer's got a bad economy he's inheriting, maybe too many old people. You don't want to think where this could go. And let's just have a look at the male stats from Canada. So Canada had a 35% rise in euthanasia deaths. I think it was in 2021, they had 10,064, 13,500 in 2022. And I'm not good at maths. I'm an English major, as they say in America. But it's 4% of all deaths in Canada that year, I calculated. If you look at the deaths in Canada that year, 334,623, but 13,500 in 2022, they offed via the state.
7% of all deaths in Quebec are state-sanctioned murders.
13,000. That's loads. That's like a battle.
Yeah, because this is how it goes. And if you go, Callum likes the graph, and there you go, medically assisted suicides in Canada. See how it goes up and up and up. This is what happens. Let me go back to the Spike piece because he points out, what's that one? That's that's the 4% of all deaths thing. So Kevin Yule has this piece in Spiked, which was pretty good. And he points out, he talks about the places it's come in and how it's expanded everywhere it's been brought in. California, Hawaii, Oregon, sorry, I sound like an American there. Vermont, Washington State. And he says expansion. Oregon, yeah. That's an old Fun Loving Criminal song when he said Oregon. So expansion of the criteria is a feature, not a bug, of assisted suicide laws. Once the right to die is enshrined in law, safeguards are almost immediately called into question by those who feel that they're suffering unbearably but do not qualify under the existing rules. There's a grim logic to it. When death comes to be seen as the best treatment for suffering, then how can the state deny it to anyone who suffers? And that's the key. Why would you not give it to X person who's got autism or is poor, which is a kind of suffering? So he says the essential problem in assisted suicide is that it turns death into a solution to life's problems. It does not alleviate people's suffering. It merely encourages them to seek death as an alternative to decent medical treatment or proper social support. So that's very much you can tell it's a sort of liberal argument. He talks about social support. It's the slippery slope argument. And you could also, to me, you could argue that the kind of general liberalism that he's espousing and that Spike espouses does lead to that. You all right?
Thank you.
Callum needs help.
I need painkillers.
Yeah. Maybe we should off Callum. He's not going to make it.
Oh, God.
So the point is, I mean, to me, the problem is he's making a liberal case against it. He's saying it's a slippery slope. Let's be careful. This is Kevin Yule. And he has actually written a book, it turns out, on this called The Liberal Humanist Case Against Suicide. And he's an atheist, but he's made this case. But to me, if people are just matter and the goal is just sort of pleasure in life, and we're in a material, secular society, materialist, then if we're in pain, life becomes pointless. This to me is the logic that leads you here. So, and he's made an interesting point on this. He talks about, I mean, he is a liberal, But he actually talks about, let me go to this next piece. He says, why atheist humanist author, why I'm against assisted suicide and euthanasia. But I'm not scrolling. That's weird. Have you taken over from me, Callum? But he said, but here we go. But actually, if you look at this piece, he only explains why liberalism has led to this. He said, Dr. You'll explain that pro-euthanasia organizations were originally established in America and the UK in the 1930s in an atmosphere where eugenics was advocated by someone in the medical profession. And obviously, he said the Second World War changed attitudes on that. But then he says renewed support for euthanasia and assisted suicide in 60s America came with the advent of the sexual revolution and individualism. By this time, the arguments have been repackaged from for the benefit of society to for the benefit of the individual. This inside-out morality saw the individual forcing their feelings on society. So he's saying how you sort of go from liberalism to this.
I'll say one thing about, because religion, most religions, certainly Christianity, well, I think nearly all religions, they say that life is sacred and it's sort of morally wrong or it's against the will of God to ever take a life, including turning a machine off. We are not to play God. Yeah, for example, when Ariel Sharon, if anyone remembers, Israeli leader Ariel Sharon, he was in a coma for years. I think it was like 5 years or something, maybe even more.
Oh, right.
And he was never going to come out of a coma, and they kept him alive with a machine. And it's part of their religion that you can't turn it off. Now, for me, that seems wrong, I'm afraid. It seems like a hell. Like you're playing God by keeping him alive with machines. If anything, it's the other way around. So, but however, if it like sort of immediately gets used for anything other than those sort of extreme situations, then it's not the same thing. It's not necessarily about whether you think life is sacred or not, is it? It's not about that anymore. Or like very, very quickly, it's about how many people are we killing unnecessarily.
Yeah. Well, I think it's about both. So yeah, it's very much about that, which is a slippery slope. How many people are we killing? But it is also ethical. And let's look at the ethical case, because he's got an interesting point here. This guy Kevin Yule again, who in a different article for Spike, he says, "What assisted dying and the death penalty have in common?" Because I started to think about the irony of how liberals are against the death penalty, but they're often pro euthanasia. Now Yule is very consistent on this. He's against both. He says if we're serious about opposing capital punishment, we need to oppose the premeditated killing of a human being by the state in all circumstances. That means opposing euthanasia and assisted suicide with just as much vehemence as opposing the death penalty. Supporters of capital punishment and state-sponsored euthanasia share a similarly low view of human life. They both see certain lives as being devoid of all value. We need to stop being selective and start opposing state-approved killing in all its forms, is the case he makes at the end here. So now I disagree with that, but at least it's consistent. At least it's consistent. But I'm taking more the biblical view, which we see in Noah. Let's just get a bit of Bible. I don't know. No one saw this coming on Lotus, but you're
reading the Bible now?
Yeah. Let's go with this. This is from Noah. Whoever sheds the blood of man, by man shall his blood be shed, for God made man in his own image. So the reason I like that passage is it's the paradox that if life is sacred, you shouldn't take it. Therefore, if you do, you must suffer the death penalty because it's so sacred that you took it, and we must therefore give you the ultimate punishment. Some people struggle with that logic, but it's there in the Bible, guys.
Did he say that bit when he was drunk? Didn't Noah famously get drunk?
He did it. That's at the very end.
Yeah, I know.
That's at the end. That's the banter sort of sitcom ending at the end. He's suddenly drunk. Yeah. So to me, the problem is when you say this is the problem with the secular approach. When you say man isn't made in the image of God, as they've said that, all bets are off. Why not have abortion? Why not have euthanasia? And then why, death penalty is actually out counterintuitively.
What about the idea of suicide being illegal in Britain? It used to be, back in the 50s and earlier, it was illegal to commit suicide.
Yeah.
If you attempted suicide and failed, the police would then want a word with you.
Yeah.
It's weird, isn't it?
Even if you kill yourself, they'd want a word. But yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would they do? Come around and put you in handcuffs?
Well, yeah, you could be arrested and prosecuted.
But isn't there something moral about that? Saying, hang on, we don't actually want you to go around killing yourselves. Come on, guys, and therefore disincentivize.
I'm just not sure what the hell the police are going to do if
You guys are all libs. That's what we're realizing today. You're all.
How dare you, sir?
I'm born in the Tony Blair world.
Yeah.
I don't know what came before.
Trapped in the Blairite paradigm, as someone likes to say here. Yeah.
I do feel like life, although it might not be sacred in my opinion, it is the most valuable thing, though. It's like hyper valuable. You don't have to believe that life's actually sacred to actually put an incredible amount of emphasis on it, as I do. But I feel like if you own anything, it's your own life. I feel like if you want to kill yourself, you should be allowed to. If you did want to leave an instruction to have a machine turned off if you're in a perpetual coma, that should be your prerogative.
Yeah, Christians probably disagree. They'd say God's giving you that life. You didn't
Yeah,
do
no,
it.
they would disagree. Yeah, they'd
You
say
didn't do
that's
it.
yeah,
So
yeah.
out of luck. Well, that's a bit of Bible on Lotus eaters. But I thought this was quite interesting. I'm making this death penalty comparison. British people, of course, as we'll have covered on this show, I'm sure, are against the for the death penalty for the most heinous crimes, multiple murder, terrorist murder acts, murder of a child, in favor of it. But you
What's
will
the
not.
crime for attempted suicide?
I'm not sure actually.
Is it death?
No,
I don't know.
no.
But can I just say, you will not see these stats used by politicians, but I bet we're all going to see from Starmer the stats about, oh, look, everyone supports euthanasia, 75%, blah, blah. Okay, well, if we're going will of the people, then we need death penalty back as well if we're going down that route. Just a little irony, but that's not going to happen. So basically, here's the positions. This Kevin Yule guy is typical of a position where he's sort of more libertarian, whatever you want to call it. He's against the death penalty. He's against euthanasia. I can sort of live with that. I'm actually pro death penalty, against euthanasia, and I'm making my case here. But there's another position, obviously, which is that you're pro euthanasia, but you're against the death penalty. Okay, and obviously the person who has that is our man Keir. Just to bring it all back, because so Keir Starmer worked for 3 years as a lawyer to save baby killers and axe murderers, which is in the Sun. So did you realize that Starmer was going around the world saving people? There was an investigation of a Jamaican guy who slaughtered his girlfriend and 9-month-old baby. Sorry for the graphic content, by stabbing them in the neck. There was a Malawian murderer who tied up his 2-year-old stepson before burying him alive. There was a Ugandan axe killer who slaughtered his girlfriend in front of her children and was spared execution by a law change Keir campaigned for as a founding member at the Death Penalty Project. Where there was another one who was a BBC presenter who was killed, and he tried to get the killer off there, and it didn't succeed because you can't win them all. So my point is here, it's just interesting. I'm not saying it's identical, but it's just an interesting irony that Keir Starmer, he's totally against the death penalty. He campaigns against it around the world. But he only wants to kill innocent people who maybe have autism or fibromyalgia, or they're a bit poor. You know what I mean?
The ones who deserve it, yes.
Yeah. So that's where it's going to go. So that is my case. Now, obviously, satirical content, before I get sued by Starmer, I'm not saying he literally wants to kill people, but isn't it just kind of interesting that, I'm just questioning the morality around these things to make you guys think about it differently.
It's just like a really weak, sort of perverted way of looking at the world, right? That convicted murderers should be spared death, but normal innocent people shouldn't be. I mean, yeah, it's just
So you
perverse,
guys
isn't it? It's just, again, it's sort of ultra weak. If you see the clip a few weeks ago of him sparring with punching a punching bag,
Oh,
you
it's
see
terrible, the punch bag, yeah.
Oh,
Awful, yeah. It's like, are you an alien? Have you ever seen boxing or punching?
yeah. Have you ever seen a thrown punched ever, let alone done one yourself? Have you ever seen it?
And he's meant to be good at football, which is really weird. And he's on about the St. George's Cross today, as we record. But yeah, I just thought it was interesting. So we've kind of covered all of it today, because I'm sensing that you guys are probably pro-death penalty, pro-euthanasia. So the guy from the Spiked article is anti-both.
I'm just for killing.
I'm pro-death penalty, anti. You guys just like more death, please. Yeah. So,
I think I am. I think I am
What?
pro death penalty and pro euthanasia, but both in sort of extreme cases, both sort of slam dunk cases only. But then that's the way it used to be for abortion, wasn't it? Only in like extremely rare cases, kind of extremely rare cases.
Yeah.
What was the old axiom about?
yes, safe, rare,
Legal.
You know the one.
Safe, legal, and rare.
Yeah. Same with like the death penalty. Well, only if we're 1,000% sure, DNA level sure that it's the correct person, and for the most heinous crimes.
but yeah.
And the same with euthanasia. If it's if the person wanted it and they're in extreme pain and can never get out of it, or a coma that they're never going to come around from, extreme cases. So
Yeah.
I guess so. Yeah.
But it's how do you keep it on those cases? And I think
I
that's
know.
today, you're not going to.
Right.
And I think the worst position is the Starmer one, the anti-death penalty, pro-euthanasia, campaigning on both radically. I can kind of live with your guys' thing. I can live with this guy Yule's thing of like, no, we'd never do it. And I can live with my thing because I've justified it of like, no, there's a reason to kill these people, but not innocent people. I can live with all of them except Starmer's, which I think, but Starmer's is the position in the country, whether actually the majority believe it or not. That's what we're going to end up told is the only normal position. Even though the death penalty was eradicated largely due to work of a radical lefty guy, that Romanian guy Carl told me about. Someone posted on my YouTube. He wasn't Romanian. His parents were Romanian. The guy Sidney Silverman. I mean, these people. But so that we're all accepted as a norm now. And we were told this is normal now. Euthanasia is normal, but we can never do the death penalty. But this is the upside down world we're living in. Anyway, I just want to quickly, tiny plug, if you want more on this, go to my podcast with the Reverend Dr. Jamie Franklin. It's called The Current Thing, and we talked about it in more detail there. You get the Christian perspective. Hope you'll forgive me a small plug because I've come all the way here.
No, that's fine.
That is pretty much my case, so thank you very much.
Hi folks, thanks for watching. If you'd like to support us, go over to lotus.com and sign up for £5 a month because of course we're demonetized on YouTube. But this gives us the freedom to do things like Lads Hour, which is where 5 of us sit around and talk about whatever subject we feel like. I've heard it described accurately as the view for men, which I think is a ringing endorsement. And if you want further updates from us, you can go and follow our Twitter account, which is lotuseaters_com.